My entire family thinks I'm the villain right now because I didn't show up to my younger brother's graduation, but none of them know the whole story. To them, I'm this selfish older sister who couldn't put aside her ego for one day. But to me, it's way more complicated. My brother, Ethan, and I used to be close. He's 3 years younger than me. Growing up, I was the bookish kid and he was the golden boy. He was athletic, popular, always smiling. Meanwhile, I was the awkward teenager who'd rather read in her room than go out. But despite that, we always had this bond. He'd come into my room late at night to rant about his friends, or I'd help him with essays when he struggled with writing. That bond cracked over the last year. It started small. He'd make little digs at me in front of his friends. Stuff like, "Oh, don't ask my sister about dating, she's clueless." Or, "Yeah, she's still living at home, don't remind her." I laughed it off at first because, brothers tease. But it started to feel less like teasing and more like humiliation. The real breaking point happened the night before his graduation. My mom had ordered takeout, and we were all sitting around the table talking about how excited she was to see him walk across the stage. Everyone was in this celebratory mood, except Ethan. He kept looking at me with this smug little grin. Then out of nowhere, he goes, "You know what's funny? Tomorrow I'll be walking across that stage, getting my diploma, making mom and dad proud, and you'll be in the audience, still figuring out your life." The table went silent. I froze. I've been struggling. I'm 23, working part-time while trying to finish my degree after changing majors. It's not something I'm proud of, but I'm working on it. For him to just throw it out like that, in front of my parents? It stung. I said, "What's that supposed to mean?" And he smirked, leaned back in his chair, and said, "It means you're basically the cautionary tale. Like, you're what not to end up as." Everyone laughed awkwardly, trying to brush it off. My dad told him to knock it off, but no one really said anything else. I sat there, humiliated, blinking back tears, while he just stuffed fries into his mouth like he hadn't just gutted me. That night, I lay in bed and thought about all the times I'd supported him. All the nights I stayed up editing his essays, driving him to practices, even defending him when he got in trouble. And now, at his big moment, I was just the family embarrassment. So I made a decision. I wasn't going. I woke up the next morning, sent my mom a quick text saying I wouldn't make it, and turned my phone off. That's when all hell broke loose. When I turned my phone back on later that evening, it nearly exploded in my hand. I had over 40 unread texts and 12 missed calls. The first one I opened was from my mom. "Mom, 9:07 a.m., sweetheart, where are you? We saved a seat for you." "Mom, 9:15 a.m., I don't understand why you're not here. This is your brother's big day." "Mom, 9:32 a.m., please don't ruin this for him. Come now." Then the tone shifted. "Mom, 10:04 a.m., I'm very disappointed in you. Everyone is asking where you are." "Mom, 10:27 a.m., I can't believe you're doing this to your brother. After everything." My stomach twisted with each new notification. I scrolled further. Dad had tried to call 3 times, but only left one voicemail. I didn't even want to listen to it. My aunt had texted something short and sharp. "Your mom is in tears. I don't know what your problem is, but fix it." And then there were Ethan's texts. "Ethan, 9:40 a.m. Wow. Didn't think you'd actually be this petty." "Ethan, 9:52 a.m. Congrats on making everything about you again." "Ethan, 11:14 a.m. Don't bother talking to me after this." I sat on my bed staring at the screen, heart pounding. I hadn't even realized how much time had passed. I'd spent most of the morning curled under the covers, trying not to imagine the graduation ceremony happening without me. The weird part? I thought I'd feel relieved not having to sit there and clap while pretending I wasn't seething inside. Instead, I felt this sinking mix of shame and stubbornness. Like, maybe I was the bad guy, but also wasn't I allowed to draw the line after what he said? At around 2 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time it was a picture from my cousin Hannah, who'd gone to the graduation. It was Ethan in his cap and gown, grinning ear to ear, diploma in hand. My parents were on either side of him, beaming. Hannah had captioned it. Such a proud moment. I stared at that photo for a long time. My family looked complete without me in it. Perfect, even. And that stung more than I expected. I put my phone down, but it kept buzzing. Group chat messages, relatives chiming in, little guilt-trippy comments like, "Family comes first, no matter what." You'll regret not being here. This will follow you for years. It felt like the whole world was piling on, and I was drowning in it. Around 5 p.m., I finally caved and went downstairs for some food. My mom and dad weren't home yet, and the house felt too quiet. I microwaved some leftover pasta, sat at the table, and told myself I wouldn't cry. I'd made my choice. I had to stick to it. Then my phone lit up again. It was Ethan. Not just a text this time, a long message. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen, before opening it. Ethan, 5:22 p.m. You really couldn't swallow your pride for one day? I don't care what you think I said last night. I was joking. Everyone laughed. But you had to turn it into some dramatic thing. You embarrassed mom and dad in front of everyone today. They had to keep making excuses for why you weren't there. Do you even realize how selfish that is? I just wanted you there. I wanted my sister in the audience. But instead, you proved exactly what I said. You make everything about yourself. I read that message 5 times. The words blurred on the screen, but they burned in my chest. He wasn't apologizing. He wasn't even trying to understand. He was doubling down, twisting it, so that somehow I was the one ruining things. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I set it down carefully and just sat there staring at the wall. Because for the first time, I wondered, maybe this wasn't just about one comment at dinner. Maybe this was about something bigger, something that had been festering between us for years. And then, almost like he knew I was about to block him, Ethan sent one last message. Ethan, 5:40 p.m. If you really cared about me at all, you would have been there. But you don't. You never have. My breath caught in my throat. What did that even mean, never have? I couldn't get his last message out of my head. You never have. Those 3 words looped in my brain as I lay on my bed that night, staring at the ceiling. What was he even talking about? I'd always cared, more than I should have sometimes. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there were things in our past that maybe looked different from his side. When we were kids, I was the responsible one. My parents leaned on me a lot because I was the oldest. I helped with chores, I got good grades. I was the one they bragged about at family parties. Ethan, meanwhile, was the fun one. The one who was always cracking jokes, running around outside, getting into little scrapes. He was loved, of course, but in a different way. I still remember one Christmas when I was about 13 and he was 10. I'd just gotten an award at school for writing. And at dinner my uncle raised his glass and said, "To our future author." Everyone clapped. Ethan grinned at first, but then made this face, like he'd just swallowed something sour. Later that night, I caught him tearing up in our shared bathroom. "Why are you crying?" I asked. He sniffled and muttered, "No one ever cheers for me like that." I'd laughed it off back then. "Because you're not good at essays," I said, like it was a joke. He shoved me and stormed off. I didn't think about it again until now. The older we got, the more obvious the comparisons became. Teachers would say things like, "Oh, you're my name, S little brother?" She was always so organized. "Can't wait to see the same from you." And Ethan would come home grumpy, slamming his backpack down. I'd try to help. I really would. I'd offer to proofread his papers, quiz him for tests, even sneak him answers once or twice when he was desperate. But instead of gratitude, sometimes he'd snap, "I don't need you treating me like I'm stupid." It was like, I couldn't win. But we still had good moments too. Late-night gaming sessions, walking home together from school, laughing about dumb inside jokes. I thought those memories meant something to him the way they did to me. So why was he saying I never cared? I scrolled back up to reread his texts. Each one felt colder than the last. Especially the part where he said I proved him right, that I make everything about myself. That stung because I've always worried that's how people see me. The one who couldn't finish her degree on time. The one still living at home, dragging her feet, figuring things out too slowly. My brother saying it out loud, saying it in front of our parents, was like pressing a finger directly into my biggest bruise. Maybe he knew that. Maybe that's why he said it. My phone buzzed again. For a second I thought it was him, but it was actually my best friend, Marissa. "Marissa, how's the graduation? Want to hang later?" I stared at the screen before finally typing back, "Didn't go." She immediately called me. "Wait, you skipped? Are you okay?" she asked, her voice sharp with concern. I explained everything. The dinner, the comment, the texts. She listened quietly, only interrupting once to mutter, "Wow, what a jerk." When I got to the part about his last message, "You never have," she went quiet. What? I asked. Marissa sighed. Look, I wasn't going to bring this up, but a couple months ago, I overheard Ethan talking to one of his friends at the coffee shop. He didn't see me there. He said something like, "Yeah, my sister pretends to care, but she's just waiting for me to screw up so she can feel better about herself." My stomach dropped. What? I didn't tell you because I figured he was just venting. People say dumb stuff when they're trying to look cool in front of their friends. But hearing what he texted you now, I don't think it was random. I think he actually believes that. I felt like someone had poured ice water over me. Ethan thought I wanted him to fail. That all those nights I stayed up proofreading his essays or driving him to practice weren't about helping, but about secretly hoping he'd crash and burn. The more I tried to wrap my head around it, the more it didn't make sense. Why would he think that? Why would he think I didn't care? And then I remembered something else, something that made my skin prickle. Last year, during a family barbecue, I caught Ethan talking to our cousin Jacob. I'd only overheard a little because I was coming out of the kitchen, but I swear I heard him say, "I just wish she'd move out already. Everything would be easier if she wasn't around." At the time, I brushed it off as teen frustration. But now I wasn't so sure. Maybe this wasn't about one mean comment at dinner. Maybe my brother had been holding resentment against me for years. But if that was true, why? Why did my own brother, my best friend growing up, see me as the enemy? After that call with Marissa, I couldn't sit still. I paced my room like a caged animal, running my hands through my hair, reading and rereading Ethan's messages. Finally, I snapped and typed out a reply. My fingers shook as I pressed each key. Me, 8:12 p.m. You really think I don't care about you? After everything I've done for you over the years? All the times I helped you when nobody else did? I skipped your graduation because you humiliated me in front of our parents the night before. That's it. That doesn't mean I don't care. But what you said, that cut deep. I hovered over the send button for a long time before finally hitting it. The three little dots appeared almost instantly. Ethan, 8:15 p.m. You didn't skip just because of that one comment. You skipped because you wanted to punish me. Admit it. My jaw tightened. Me? Punish you for what? You made a cruel joke about me being a failure in front of everyone. Why should I sit there and clap for you the next day like nothing happened? Ethan, because it wasn't that serious. Everyone knew I was joking. You could have let it go for one day. That's what family does. But no, you had to make a statement. You wanted to ruin my big moment because you couldn't stand that. For once, it was about me. I just stared at his words. My throat felt tight. Me? Do you really believe that? That I couldn't stand it being about you? Ethan, I was proud of you. I was ready to cheer for you. But you made me feel like garbage the night before. How could you expect me to just swallow that and smile? There was a pause. For a second, I thought maybe I'd gotten through to him. Then another bubble popped up. Ethan, you've never been proud of me. You've always looked down on me. You think I don't notice the way you sigh when I mess up? Or the way you help like you're my babysitter? You want me to fail so you can keep being the smart one. That one broke me. I typed back furiously. Me? That's not true. I've never wanted you to fail. If anything, I've been over backwards to make sure you succeed. You have no idea how much I've cared. You're my little brother, Ethan. I've always wanted the best for you. If you can't see that, I don't know what to say. I hit send, then tossed my phone onto the bed like it was on fire. My chest was heaving. I wanted to scream. I didn't get a reply right away. Instead, about 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. I hesitated, then answered. Hi, I said, voice small. She didn't say hello back. Her voice was tight, like she'd been crying. What is going on between you and your brother? I closed my eyes. Did he tell you? He told me you refused to come because you couldn't stand to support him. Do you have any idea how awful that made me feel? People kept asking where you were. I had to keep lying. Do you know how humiliating that was for us? Her words hit like a whip. Mom, it's not that simple, I whispered. He said some really hurtful things to me the night before. It was a joke, she snapped. You know your brother. He jokes. You're the older one. You're supposed to be mature enough to brush it off. Instead, you made it about yourself. The line went quiet for a moment. I could hear her sniffle. You've embarrassed us, she said finally, voice breaking. And you've hurt your brother more than you realize. I need you to apologize. My mouth went dry. Apologize? I repeated, stunned. Yes, she said firmly. For missing his graduation. For letting your pride get in the way of family. This has gone too far. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mom. who'd seen me sitting at that dinner table with tears in my eyes while Ethan mocked me, was now telling me to apologize to him? I wanted to argue. I wanted to shout. But all that came out was a broken whisper. I can't do that. Then don't bother coming downstairs when we get home, she said coldly. I don't want to look at you right now. The call ended. I just sat there, clutching my phone, feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. When I finally opened Ethan's chat again, I saw he'd left me on read. No response. No acknowledgement. Just silence. And for the first time, a horrible thought crossed my mind. Maybe he doesn't want a sister anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening for the sound of my parents' car pulling into the driveway, my heart hammering in my chest. When they finally got home, I heard the door slam and muffled voices downstairs. My mom's voice was sharp, my dad's lower and calmer, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I stayed in my room, too afraid to face them. The next morning, though, I couldn't avoid it. I walked into the kitchen to grab some coffee, and there they were at the table. Mom's eyes were puffy, like she'd been crying all night. Dad had his arms folded, jaw set tight. Neither of them smiled when they saw me. "Morning," I said weakly. Dad's eyes narrowed. "Sit down." I sank into a chair across from them, my stomach twisted in knots. Mom was the first to speak. "We need to talk about your behavior." I swallowed hard. "Look, I know I hurt everyone by not going. But you didn't just hurt us," Dad interrupted. His voice was calm, but there was a hard edge to it that made my throat close up. "You embarrassed us. Do you understand how it looked? Your brother walked across that stage, and we had to keep smiling while people asked why his own sister couldn't be bothered to show up." I clenched my hands together under the table. "I didn't go because of what he said to me the night before. He humiliated me in front of you. He called me a cautionary tale. He made me feel like a complete failure. And you both just sat there and let it happen." Mom flinched, but Dad leaned forward, eyes locked on mine. "It was a joke. A bad one, sure. But you're old enough to let something like that roll off your back. He's 18, for crying out loud. He doesn't always think before he talks. You're supposed to be the adult here." I stared at him, disbelief flooding me. "So it's fine for him to tear me down, but I'm the problem for not clapping for him afterward?" "Family isn't about keeping score," Dad said flatly. "It's about showing up. You failed at that." The words hit like a punch. "I've always shown up," I said, my voice rising. "When he needed help with homework, I was there. When he needed rides, I was there. When he screwed up and needed someone to cover for him, I was there. And now the one time I needed someone to stand up for me, you both did nothing." The kitchen fell silent. My chest heaved, and my hands trembled on the table. Finally, Mom whispered, "We just wanted you there. That's all. We wanted a picture of our whole family together on his big day. Was that really too much to ask?" Something in me snapped. Yes, it was too much to ask me to sit there smiling while I felt like garbage. It was too much to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. I'm not a prop for his perfect day. Mom's face hardened. Dad shook his head slowly, like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You've let your pride get in the way of family," Dad said. "That's not who we raised you to be." I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry in front of them. "If you can't see my side," I said quietly, "then maybe I don't belong here anymore." Mom gasped. Dad's expression didn't change. I stormed out of the kitchen, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped my coffee mug. Upstairs, I slammed my bedroom door shut and pressed my back against it, chest heaving. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. Maybe they'd cool off and we'd figure it out in a few days. But less than an hour later, my phone buzzed with a new message, this time from my cousin Hannah, the same one who'd sent me the graduation picture. "Hannah, 10:14 a.m. Hey, just so you know, Ethan's been telling everyone in the family group chat that you skipped because you were jealous. People are starting to take sides. You might want to say something before it gets worse." My blood ran cold. Jealous? That was his narrative now? I opened the group chat, my fingers trembling. Sure enough, there it was, dozens of messages flying back and forth. Ethan, 9:47 a.m. She couldn't stand that the spotlight wasn't on her. That's why she didn't come. Aunt Linda, that's really sad. She should be happy for you. Uncle Joe, sounds like she's got issues. Ignore her, Ethan. You worked hard for this. Grandma, your sister should be ashamed. We always put family first. I scrolled and scrolled, my heart sinking with every word. It was like watching a trial where I wasn't allowed to defend myself. Everyone had already decided I was guilty. Then I saw it. One line from Ethan that made my vision blur with rage. Ethan, honestly, she's always hated me. She just hides it better sometimes. I nearly dropped my phone. Hated him. Hated him. After everything I'd done for him. That was what he thought of me? That was what he wanted the whole family to believe. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call him right then and there and demand to know why he was twisting the knife. But before I could, another message popped up in the chat. From Ethan, again. Ethan, 10:32 a.m. You'll all see soon enough. She's not who you think she is. My stomach dropped. What was that supposed to mean? I couldn't shake that last message. You'll all see soon enough. She's not who you think she is. It played on a loop in my head, twisting my stomach tighter each time. What did he mean by that? What could he possibly be planning to show everyone? I slammed my laptop shut and grabbed my phone. There was only one person I could call, Marissa. She picked up on the second ring. What happened now? I told her everything. The group chat, the jealousy accusations, the way my family was turning against me. My voice cracked halfway through, and I hated how small and broken I sounded. When I read her Ethan's exact words, she went quiet. That's not good, she finally said. That sounds like he's gearing up to do something. Maybe post something about you, or tell the family some story that makes you look bad. My pulse spiked. But what story? What could he even say? Marissa sighed. Honestly, it doesn't even matter. If he twists it the right way, they'll believe him. They already want to believe you're the jealous one. He's feeding them exactly what they expect to hear. I rubbed my temples. So what do? If I jump into the group chat and defend myself, it'll just look like I'm overreacting. If I say nothing, they'll think his version is the truth. There was a long pause before Marissa said, You might not like what I'm about to say, but maybe you should just talk to him. Face to face. Get the real story out of him before he goes nuclear. The thought of it made my skin crawl. Seeing Ethan after everything he'd said, after everything he was spreading about me, the idea of standing in the same room with him felt impossible. But maybe she was right. I'll think about it, I muttered. We hung up, but I couldn't settle. I kept pacing my room, picking at my nails, scrolling through the family chat just to torture myself. More relatives had chimed in since I last checked. My aunt wrote, Graduations are once in a lifetime. I hope she realizes how selfish this looks. My uncle added, If she didn't want to be there, maybe she doesn't want to be part of the family at all. It felt like watching my reputation burn down in real time. And then Marissa texted me again. Marissa, 1:03 p.m. Hey, I remembered something else. I don't know if I should even tell you, but it feels important. My stomach flipped. I typed back quickly. What? A few minutes later, she called. Her voice was hesitant. Last year, when I ran into Ethan and some of his friends at the park, I overheard him say something about you. At the time, I brushed it off, but with everything going on, I can't stop thinking about it. My throat went dry. What did he say? Marissa took a deep breath. He said, I can't wait until she's gone. Everything would be easier if she just disappeared. I nearly dropped the phone. Disappeared? I whispered. Yeah. I thought maybe he just meant moving out, like he wanted the house to himself. But he said it with this bitterness, like he really meant it. And now, with the stuff he's saying in the group chat, I don't know. I think he's been building up resentment toward you for a long time. I sat on the edge of my bed, trembling. Ethan had wanted me gone. Not in a casual, ugh, my sibling is annoying way. In a deep, festering way. How'd I miss this? All those years I thought I was helping him, supporting him, being the good big sister. Had he been secretly hating me the whole time? I didn't know what to do with that. I was still sitting there frozen when my phone buzzed again. Another message in the family chat. My heart leapt into my throat as I opened it. Ethan, 1:45 p.m. Since she won't defend herself, I will. You all should know the truth about what she's really like. Dozens of relatives immediately replied. What truth? Spit it out, Ethan. We're listening. And then Ethan's typing bubble popped up. I stared at it, my hands clammy, my entire body tense. Whatever he was about to say, I had this sickening feeling it would change everything. The little typing bubble seemed to go on forever. Every time it disappeared, my heart skipped. Every time it popped back up, my chest tightened. Then the message came through. Ethan, 1:47 p.m. She acts like she's always supported me, but the truth is she's never been proud of me. She looks down on me. She makes fun of me behind my back. And when she does help, it's only so she can feel superior. The group chat exploded. Uncle Joe, wow. Aunt Linda. That's messed up if true. Grandma. I always thought she seemed a little cold sometimes. Mom. Ethan, maybe don't air this here. Ethan, why not? She embarrassed me by skipping the graduation. Everyone's defending her, but no one knows what she's really like. I'm done keeping quiet. I sat frozen, my screen burning my eyes. Then another message appeared. Ethan, 1:52 p.m. Do you guys know how many times she's told me I'm not smart enough? Or how many times she's laughed when I mess something up? She loves it when I fail. She lives for it. She wants me to look bad so she can look good. My throat closed. I wanted to scream. I'd never said those things. Ever. Me, 1:54 p.m., that's not true. Ethan, why are you lying? Almost instantly, replies flooded in. Aunt Linda. So you're calling your brother a liar now? Uncle Joe. This isn't a good look. Grandma. Sweetheart, maybe you don't realize how you come across. I wanted to throw up. My own family was eating it up. Ethan, 1:56 p.m. See? She's twisting it like always. I remember in middle school when I failed that math test, she laughed and told me I'd never get into college. That's the kind of sister she is. My jaw dropped. That never happened. I remembered that test. He came home upset, and I sat with him for 2 hours trying to go over fractions. I never said anything like that. Me, 1:57 p.m., that's not true. I helped you study that night. Why are you making things up? But my protests were drowned out by the relatives chiming in. Uncle Joe. It's okay, everyone fights. But skipping his graduation over this? That's petty. Cousin Leah. Honestly, it always seemed like she thought she was better than everyone. Grandma. I'm just sad the family is falling apart. I felt like I was suffocating. I switched out of the group chat and dialed Ethan directly. My hands shook as I pressed the phone to my ear. He answered after 3 rings. What do you want? His voice was sharp, defensive. You know I never said those things, I whispered. Why are you lying? Silence on the other end. Then he said, because that's how it felt. I blinked. What? You always acted like you were better than me, he said. His tone wasn't angry now. It was bitter. Raw. Every time you corrected me, every time you sighed at me when I didn't get something right away, every time you bragged about your grades while I was struggling, it felt like you were looking down on me. Maybe you didn't say the words out loud, but you didn't have to. I knew. My mouth opened and closed like a fish. Ethan, that's not what I meant. I never wanted to make you feel that way. I was trying to help. Yeah, well, it didn't feel like help, he snapped. It felt like you loved being the smart one and hated that I couldn't measure up. So when you skipped my graduation, it just proved I was right. You don't actually care about me. You just care about being the better sibling. His words gutted me, because I could hear the pain in them. Even if they weren't true, even if they were twisted, he believed them. Ethan, my voice broke. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel that way. But lying to the whole family isn't the answer. You're turning everyone against me. You did that yourself, he said coldly. The moment you decided not to show up. And then he hung up. I sat there with the phone still pressed to my ear, my heart pounding. Within minutes, my mom texted me privately. Mom, 2:11 p.m., we need to talk tonight. All of us. No more avoiding. Dinner at 7. Be there. My stomach dropped. A family meeting. With Ethan. I had no idea what I'd be walking into. But one thing was certain. Whatever happened at that dinner could either fix everything or burn the last bridge I had left. I don't think I've ever dreaded a dinner as much as I dreaded that night. All afternoon, my stomach twisted itself into knots. I kept imagining walking downstairs and seeing everyone's faces. My mom, still puffy-eyed from crying. My dad, arms crossed, disappointed. And Ethan, sitting there smug, waiting to tear me down again. By 6:45, I was pacing my room. I thought about texting Marissa to come pick me up and just running. But something inside me told me if I skipped this dinner, there'd be no coming back from it. Whatever fragile thread of family I had left would snap. At 7 sharp, I forced myself downstairs. The kitchen smelled like roast chicken and garlic bread, comfort food, the kind Mom always made when she wanted to smooth things over. But there was nothing comforting about the atmosphere. Dad sat at the head of the table, silent and stone-faced. Mom was fussing with the silverware, her movements sharp, like she was trying not to cry again. And Ethan sat slouched in his chair, scrolling on his phone, looking like he couldn't care less. No one said hello when I walked in. I sat down across from Ethan. My chair scraped loudly against the floor, the sound cutting through the silence like a knife. He didn't look up. We ate in silence for a few minutes, the clinking of forks the only sound. My throat was so tight I could barely swallow. Finally, Dad set his fork down with a heavy clink. All right, enough. We're going to clear the air. Mom nodded quickly. Yes, we're a family. We can't go on like this. Ethan finally looked up from his phone, his eyes narrowing at me. Then maybe she should apologize. I felt my face heat. Me? You humiliated me in front of everyone, Ethan. You've been telling lies in the family chat, and I'm the one who has to apologize? They weren't lies, he shot back, his voice sharp. That's how it felt growing up. You think you were this perfect big sister, but you weren't. You were a constant reminder of everything I wasn't. And you liked it that way. I never liked it. I snapped. I hated the comparisons too. I hated the pressure. But I still helped you. I stayed up late editing your essays. I drove you to practices. I defended you when you got in trouble. Does that sound like someone who wanted you to fail? He leaned forward, eyes blazing. It sounds like someone who wanted credit. You only helped so you could look good. You wanted everyone to see how responsible you were compared to me. My chest ached. Do you really believe that? Ethan's jaw clenched. Yes. The silence after that was deafening. My mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Dad sighed, rubbing his temples. I swallowed hard. Ethan, I never wanted to compete with you. You're my brother. I've always loved you. He laughed bitterly. Loved me? You barely tolerated me. You acted like I was some burden you had to manage. That's not true. My voice cracked. You were my best friend growing up. I looked forward to our stupid jokes, our late-night talks. I thought we were close. But apparently, the whole time, you were building up this resentment. Because you never saw me, he said, his voice shaking now. You saw the version of me that needed fixing. The screw-up. The one you had to save. Not the real me. His words cut deep. I looked at my parents, desperate for someone to step in. But Dad just shook his head. You two need to figure this out yourselves. We're not refereeing anymore. Mom whispered, please, just make peace. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But how do you make peace with someone who's rewriting your entire relationship in the worst possible light? I turned back to Ethan. What do you want from me? Do you want me to say sorry? Fine. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel less than. I'm sorry if my help came across as condescending. But I will not apologize for not going to your graduation. Not after the way you treated me the night before. That was cruel, Ethan. For the first time all night, his expression cracked. He looked almost guilty, but it vanished quickly, replaced with anger. You think that was cruel? You don't even know the half of it, he said. His voice dropped lower, almost a growl. You want to know why I said what I said that night? You want to know why I can't stand you sometimes? My heart pounded. Then tell me. He leaned across the table, his eyes locked on mine. Because you were never supposed to be the favorite. I was. The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. I stared at him, my mind spinning. What did that even mean? Because you were never supposed to be the favorite. I was. The words rattled around in my head like loose coins in a dryer. They didn't make sense. My brother stared at me across the table, jaw tight, chest heaving, like he'd been holding that sentence in for years. What does that even mean? I finally managed, my voice hoarse. Ethan laughed bitterly. Don't act like you don't know. Mom and Dad never shut up about you. From the time we were little, it was always, look how smart she is, look how mature she is, look how responsible she is. I was just the tag-along, the screw-up, the comic relief. But I was supposed to be the one they were proudest of. I was supposed to be the one who made them look good. I blinked at him, stunned. Ethan, you think I wanted that? You think I asked to be compared to you? I hated it too. He slammed his fist on the table, making Mom flinch. Don't you get it? You didn't have to ask. They handed it to you. You were the golden child. I was the afterthought. And the worst part? You loved it. You lapped it up every time they bragged about you. I didn't love it, I said, my voice shaking. I felt crushed by it. Do you know how many times I cried because I was scared of disappointing them? Do you know how heavy it is to be the one they expect everything from? He shook his head violently. Don't twist this. You had their love. You had their respect. I had nothing but eye rolls and lectures. And then you. He broke off, his throat tight. I leaned forward. Then I what? His voice cracked as he spat it out. Then you took my graduation away from me. The silence in the room was deafening. Mom had tears streaming down her face. Dad stared at the table, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. I swallowed hard. Ethan, I didn't take anything from you. You still graduated. You still walked that stage. You still had Mom and Dad there cheering for you. But not you, he snapped. Not the person they always hold up as the example. Don't you get it? Having you there would have been proof that maybe, just maybe, I'd finally done something worth your time. But you didn't come. You proved I was right. That you'll never see me as good enough. The weight of his words crashed down on me. I felt my chest cave in, like the air had been sucked out of the room. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. My little brother, the kid I'd stayed up late gaming with, the one I'd defended in middle school fights, the one I thought I'd always had a bond with, was telling me he'd never once felt good enough in my eyes. And the worst part? Maybe I had done things that made him feel that way, even without realizing it. I tried to speak, but Dad finally cleared his throat, his voice rough. Enough. Both of you. This isn't about who was supposed to be the favorite. We loved you both. We love you both. Ethan snorted. You have a funny way of showing it. Mom's face crumpled. That's not fair. It is fair. Ethan's voice cracked with raw anger. Do you know how many times you said, why can't you be more like your sister? Do you even realize what that did to me? You didn't raise two kids. You raised one success story and one cautionary tale. And I'm sick of it. Mom covered her mouth, sobbing. Dad looked like someone had punched him in the gut. I sat there frozen, my heart breaking. Because as much as I wanted to deny it, Ethan wasn't wrong. Our parents had compared us, whether they meant to or not. I remembered it clearly now, Mom saying things like, your sister never missed a homework assignment, or Dad sighing, look how responsible she is, you should take notes. At the time, I hated it too, but I never thought about how it must have felt for him. Ethan, I whispered, my voice trembling. I didn't realize. I swear to you, I never wanted you to feel like that. I thought we were a team. I thought we had each other. His eyes glistened, but he looked away. We never had each other. You were always too busy being perfect. The room went silent again. My chest ached so badly it hurt to breathe. Finally, Dad spoke. I think we all need to take responsibility here. Your mother and I shouldn't have compared you two. That was wrong. And maybe your sister didn't realize how she came across. But Ethan, lying about her in the group chat, that wasn't right either. Ethan's face hardened. I didn't lie. I told my truth. That's not truth, I said softly. That's pain talking. For the first time, Ethan looked unsure. His anger wavered, replaced with something that looked dangerously close to grief. But before I could reach him, he pushed back from the table, his chair screeching against the floor. I can't do this, he muttered, storming out of the room. The slam of the front door echoed through the house. I sat there trembling, tears streaming down my face. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled away, staring at the doorway Ethan had just walked through. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. After Ethan stormed out, the kitchen felt like a stage after the audience has gone home. Chairs askew, cold plates congealing, and all that leftover noise still humming in the air. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a crumpled napkin. Dad just stared at the grain in the table like it might open and swallow him. I could hear my own pulse, fast and high, like I'd run up too many flights of stairs. I need air, I said, which wasn't the whole truth. I needed space from the versions of us that had been sitting at that table. I slipped out the back door into a dusk that smelled like damp grass and garlic bread cooling in the sink. The sky was lavender, and a line of birds drifted past like commas in a sentence I couldn't finish. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling as shadows moved across it, replaying Ethan's voice over and over. You were never supposed to be the favorite. I was. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw 3 chairs, Mom, Dad, me, and an empty fourth one with Ethan's shape cut out of it. Around 2 in the morning, I gave up trying, sat cross-legged, and wrote notes in my phone. Not the polished kind, just fragments. Favorite equals a crown no one wants. Moms, why can't you be more like your sister? Like a pebble in his shoe for a decade. My sighs. Did they sound like verdicts? If I show up now, is it for him or for absolution? At sunrise, I decided I'd meet him halfway. Not about the graduation. That line felt like a bruise I needed to protect, but about the wound under it. I sent a text. Me, 9:04 a.m. Can we talk? Just us? It took 3 empty hours for the bubbles to appear. When they did, I felt my breath go shallow like I'd been holding it without realizing. Ethan, 12:17 p.m. Fine. Park. 1. The park was the same as always. The squeak of metal swings, a basketball thumping somewhere out of sight, the faint chatter of a toddler insisting leaves are money. Ethan sat on the bench near the courts in his hoodie, elbows on knees, like he was bracing for a wave. I sat at the opposite end, leaving a polite gulf of slatted wood between us. Neither of us spoke at first. A gust of wind ruffled the top of his hair. A candy wrapper skittered past like it was late to something. Finally I said, "I'm sorry," and my voice did that unstable thing like the start of a cry you're trying to swallow. He didn't look at me. For what? For making you feel small. For being the measuring stick you got whacked with. For not seeing it when it was happening. He unclenched his jaw an inch. You were the measuring stick and the person holding it. I didn't ask to hold it, I said softly. But I see how it looked. And I'm not saying I wasn't frustrated sometimes. I'm sure I sighed. I'm sure I corrected. I thought I was helping. I didn't realize help could sound like judgment. He looked at the courts. A kid shot, missed, then hooped like he won anyway. It always sounded like judgment. I hear you, I said. And I'm sorry. We sat in that for a while. He dug the back of his sneaker against gravel. I folded my hands together until my knuckles went white. He said, quieter, I wanted you there. It landed between us like a stone in a pond. I wanted to be there, I said, and that surprised me, how true it still was. But the night before you made me into a cautionary tale, right in front of them. I went upstairs and felt like a prop for your big day. I couldn't do it. Not the next morning. Maybe not without hearing you say this stuff first. He blew out a breath, cheeks puffing like we were kids again and he'd lost at Mario Kart. I was a jerk. You were, I said. But not randomly. Purposefully. And that purpose, I get it now. It was heavy. He rubbed his eye with the heel of his hand, quick. I told Grandma you hated me. The confession was small, almost childish. I saw. I stared at the scuffed plank at my feet. I also saw you type it, and then sit in the praise that came after. Felt like being erased while still sitting in the room. He flinched. I wanted them on my side for once. Did it work? I asked. Did it fix the hole? He looked at me then. We have the same eyes. I'd never noticed how much that mattered. No. There was a long, sweet silence where the worst part of the storm had passed. I scooted an inch closer on the bench, not enough to be dramatic, just enough that we were sharing the same plank. What do we do now, he said. It sounded like he meant it, not performatively. 2 things, I said. First, you tell the family you exaggerated. You don't have to write a novel. Just tell the truth you can live with. Second, we set rules. With each other and with them. Rules, he echoed, skeptical. Like, no diagnosing each other in front of relatives. No, you always or you never. If either of us hears a comparison, we shut it down, even if it's about us in a good way. And we don't fix each other in public. If you want help, ask. If I want to help, I ask. Deal? He considered. No eye rolls. I sat up straighter. No eye rolls, I repeated. Though you do know I come from a long line of dramatic eye muscles. He cracked a smile. Barely, but it was there. I'll post in the chat later, he said. After I figure out what I'm saying. I'm not asking for you to throw yourself under a bus, I said. I'm asking you to stop dragging me behind it. He nodded. And you? Will you say something? I'll own my choice, I said. Not the lies. I'll apologize for the hurt, not for the boundary. If that makes sense. He shifted, pulled something from his hoodie pocket, and placed it between us. It was a folded program from the graduation, edges softened by all the hands that had touched it. I grabbed an extra, he said, eyes on the trees. In case you wanted it. It's dumb. It's not dumb, I said, and I pressed my hand flat over it like a promise. We sat another 15 minutes saying nothing, listening to the ball hit the backboard, the hum of early summer. On the walk back to the car, he bumped his shoulder against mine the way you do to test how much forgiveness is in the air. I bumped back lightly. Not a hug. Not yet. But movement. At home, Mom was at the sink rinsing plates that were already clean, the way she does when she's trying to wash a feeling. Dad hovered, pretending to look for a glass, but really waiting for a report card. How did it go? Mom asked, too quickly. We talked, I said. We talked, Ethan echoed, behind me. And Dad said, planting his hands on the counter. And we're going to try not being enemies, I said. Step 1, no comparisons. Step 2. Family therapy. Mom blinked. Therapy? Yes, I said. A few sessions. We need a referee who isn't you, Dad. Dad gave me the tight-lipped look that says he's deciding between arguing and surprising you. 1 session, he said. 3, I said. 2, Ethan said, unexpected. Minimum. Mom looked between us, lip wobbling. If it helps us, okay. 2, maybe 3. It wasn't a victory lap. It was a sketch of a plan on a napkin, but it was something. Ethan disappeared into his room with that purposeful posture he gets when he's about to do something terrifying like take a jump shot in front of people. I went upstairs, sat at my desk, and stared at our family group chat. The most recent message was from Aunt Linda, praying for healing, but also accountability, which was her way of setting a folding chair in the front row of our business. At 4:12 p.m., Ethan's name popped up. Ethan, hey everyone. I need to clarify something. I was really upset about my sister missing the ceremony, and I said things that weren't fair. Our relationship is complicated, and it's not all her fault. I exaggerated. Please don't harass her. We're working on it. The responses came like rain. Grandma, love you both. Sunday dinner. No drama. My house. Hannah, proud of you for saying this. Aunt Linda, good first step. Hope your sister takes one too. Uncle Joe, thumbs up emoji. It was an absolution, but the temperature dropped a few degrees. I wrote and rewrote my message 6 times before sending. Me, I'm sorry for the hurt my absence caused on Ethan's big day. I should have shared sooner that something said the night before made it impossible for me to show up in a healthy way. I won't relitigate it here. I love my brother. We're setting some boundaries and getting some help. Please give us room to work it out. Hannah heart reacted. Grandma sent 3 hearts and a plate of virtual spaghetti. Aunt Linda replied, boundaries are good. Accountability is better. I let it sit. Not every ball needed to be chased. That night, Ethan knocked on my door and did the awkward hover. Can I? Yeah. He stepped inside, hands in pockets. Do you still have that box from middle school? The one with the dumb letters and the Nintendo stuff? In the garage, I said. We went out together, the motion sensor light snapping on like a spotlight over dust motes. We dug through 2 plastic bins and a dented metal trunk that used to be Dad's. I found a stack of my old notebooks, half poetry, half lists of things I swore I'd do after turning 18. Ethan found a shoebox with a crooked label. Important. Do not throw away. Seriously. He opened it. On top was a folded paper crown with glitter glue flakes. Under it, a photo. Me in braces and Ethan with chlorine hair, our arms around each other, the kind of grin that shows gums. There was also a letter, folded like a fortune teller toy, written in his uneven 4th grade handwriting. To my sister, he read out loud, then cleared his throat and kept going, voice smaller. Thanks for helping me with my report. I hope when I am older I can be brave like you and write good sentences. You are my favorite person except pizza. I had to sit down on the cement floor for that one. He handed it to me, not meeting my eyes. I forgot I wrote that. It's okay, I said, blinking too fast. It's nice to meet 4th grade you again. He kept digging and pulled out a composition book with a sticker of a shark on it. This was my essay you fixed that time. 7th grade. He flipped to a page where my red pen had marched like an army. Commas here, arrow there, great image in the margins. He ran his thumb over it. I kept reading your notes and thinking, she sees the mistakes first, not the story. That hurts, I said honestly. But it's fair. I did see them first. I thought that was love. To fix. To make right. He closed the notebook. I wanted you to just say, cool shark. Cool shark, I said, and we both laughed, then didn't, because it wasn't really a joke. He carried the shoebox inside like it was fragile. In the kitchen, Mom had warmed milk like we were 8. She slid mugs toward us as if a bedtime ritual might rewind the day. Found treasures? She asked. Evidence, Ethan said lightly. Of what? That we were kids once, he said. It was gentler than anything he'd said to her in days. Mom reached a hand for his cheek, then hesitated and rested it on the counter instead. I'm sorry for the comparisons, she blurted suddenly, like the words were heavier when kept inside. I thought I was encouraging you. I was scared you'd drift and school would get harder and you'd think we gave up on you. I kept pointing at your sister like a lighthouse. I didn't realize it could feel like a spotlight on your every flaw. Dad, washing a clean mug again, said softly, I was proud of both of you. I just didn't always say it right. Ethan stared into his mug. Say it now. Dad set the mug down carefully. I'm proud of you, Ethan. For finishing. For telling us what hurt. For coming back. Mom added, voice wobbly. I'm proud of you for who you are, not who you are compared to anybody. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until it left me. We scheduled therapy that night, Tuesday, 6 o'clock, with a family counselor named Denise who sounded like summer camp and stern kindness over the phone. Dad grumbled about parking. Mom worried about what to wear. Ethan laughed at both of them, and for a heart-stopping minute, I saw flashes of how we could be. The next morning, I made a different decision. It wasn't punishment, it was oxygen. I opened my laptop and messaged a landlord about the small studio above the bakery near the bus line. The listing photos showed scuffed hardwood and a window that let in the kind of light that wakes the plants. Rent would be tight on my part-time job, but Marissa had already offered her couch if I needed a safety net. I needed a door that was mine. A place where I could figure out who I was when I wasn't the example or the disappointment. Just a person cooking eggs at midnight in a quiet space. When I told my parents, Mom's mouth trembled. It feels like you're leaving us because of this. I'm leaving because I'm 23, I said, gentle. And because I love you, and loving you from a little farther away might be healthier. Ethan leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed, studying me with that half-older, half-younger brother gaze. You need help moving? Yes, I said and smiled. Yes, I do. We moved boxes on a Saturday that smelled like rain but didn't deliver. Marissa labeled things with tape and a Sharpie, drawing little flowers on the corners of the boxes to make me laugh. Ethan carried the heavier things and made loud comments about how my book collection could build a fortress. He stacked milk crates like a Tetris champion. At one point, he emerged from the back of his car with a gift bag that looked suspiciously like it had been reused since the early 2000s. For you, he said, suddenly shy. Inside was a simple frame with a photo he'd printed. Us at the park bench 2 days earlier, caught from behind by Marissa. I hadn't even noticed her take it, our shoulders not quite touching. Taped beside the photo was the graduation tassel from his cap. I thought you might want to be in at least one graduation picture, he said. His voice went thin in the middle. Even if it's after. I swallowed around the lump that appeared out of nowhere. Thank you, I said. I'm going to put it where the morning light hits. We did a miniature do-over that evening in the backyard, because Mom asked if we would, and because it felt like healing might need ritual. Dad printed a fake diploma on the office printer. Mom insisted on the same dress she'd worn to the real ceremony. Ethan wore his gown over Jim's shorts and made a face like a sitcom son. I held the rolled paper and walked 2 steps toward him, then handed it over while Dad shouted, "Congratulations," like a one-man crowd. Mom cried again, but it was the soft kind. Hannah took our photo and texted it to the family group chat with a heart. Uncle Joe responded with 16 clapping emojis. Aunt Linda said, "Better late than never," which was, for her, almost affectionate. After cake, we cleaned up in that strange dance families do. Someone scraping plates, someone wrapping leftovers, someone turning off lights one by one as if to dim the day. Ethan lingered by the back door. Therapy Tuesday, he said, a reminder and a dare. I'll be there, I said. Denise had soft leather chairs and a clock that ticked loudly enough to make you aware of how long you were talking. She didn't let us spiral. She held up mirrors like, when you say help, he hears control. And when you hear boundary, you hear rejection. At one point, she asked Mom to list 3 things she appreciated about Ethan that had nothing to do with school. Mom said, "You make me laugh even when I'm mad. And you notice when I'm overwhelmed and take the trash out without asking. And you are kind to dogs and old men." Ethan blinked so hard it looked like he might take flight. Denise asked me to practice giving feedback without fixing. She made me say, "I like this," before any comment. That night, when Ethan showed me a video he'd edited from graduation day, clips of his friends, a quick shot of Mom's bright handkerchief, Dad pretending he wasn't crying, I said, "I like this." And I meant it. And then I kept my mouth closed. He looked at me sideways, like a cat testing if your lap is truly safe. A week later, in a quieter moment, he said, "I'm still mad sometimes." It was confession and boundary, both. Me too, I said. I think that's normal. What if normal feels weird, he asked. Then we practice until it feels less weird, I said. Like parallel parking. He snorted. You still can't do that. I can do it when you're not watching, I said, and he rolled his eyes without malice. Not everything was a tidy montage. Aunt Linda posted a family values meme on Facebook that made my molars ache. Grandma still asked, "You two getting along?" at the start of every call like she was checking weather. Dad reverted to a comparison once and then corrected himself mid-sentence, cheeks pink. Mom silently left a brochure for campus counseling on Ethan's desk and then apologized for the silent part. We were not saints. We were people banging into furniture in the dark, learning the shape of the room. The night I finished arranging the studio, I stood in the doorway and took in the lopsided rug, the thrift store lamp, the plant that would absolutely die in my care and then, against all odds, survive. I hung Ethan's frame on the wall by the window. Morning light caught the tassel and made a small gold line on the wood floor like a pencil mark. I took a picture and sent it to him. Me. Tassel is good luck. Ethan. Told you. Me. Thanks for carrying my ridiculous box of ceramics. Ethan. They were labeled fragile, dreams, and fragile, past mistakes. That was heavy. Me. I have a system. Ethan. I noticed. Ethan. Check your email. Sent something. It was a video. In the thumbnail, he was sitting in his room, the crooked graduation cap on his knee. I clicked. He stared at the camera for a beat too long, then started talking. He said he was proud of himself for finishing school. He said that pride doesn't have to take anything away from someone else. He said he'd been angry for a long time at the wrong person. He said he loved his sister. At the end, he held up a page from that shark essay notebook. My red, great image, circled like a sun. He tapped it with his finger and said, "She saw the story too. I just didn't know how to hear it." He had uploaded it to the family chat before sending it to me. Comments stacked under it. Grandma with a string of hearts. Hannah with, "I'm sobbing." Aunt Linda with a cautious, "This was very brave." Mom with, "I love my children." Dad with a cascade of inappropriate celebratory gifts he doesn't fully understand how to use. I cried into my elbow. Not dramatic, just a quiet leak. It was not a fix. It was not a miracle. But it was a flag planted on the right hill. One last thing. Ethan just texted me, "Cool shark," out of nowhere. I sent back a string of shark emojis and the worst doodle of a fish I've ever drawn. He sent a picture of himself at the kitchen table helping Dad fix a wobbly chair, their heads bent over the same problem for once. It was small. It was everything.